All right, in this video, we're going to look at some other tools for effective instruction within Schoology. So again, we're not going to be able to go into all of the different features, but just want to highlight a couple of these we maybe talked about in the 101 series, but we'll go into maybe a little bit more detail and just highlight a few more things that you might be interested in using. So some of this will also depend on what version of Schoology you have. So if you have the free version or an enterprise version that your district purchased. So again, you may not see all of these same options, but we're just going to cover a few basics and hopefully you'll be able to explore at least a few of these. So a couple things to highlight. If I look within a course, so I'm in my sandbox course, if I look at the very bottom of the list on the left, one thing that you may or may not have is this workload planning. And this is a kind of an interesting new feature for Schoology. If I click on this guy, you're going to see if you have to be the teacher of the course. So if you're a student, if you're in a course that you're not the owner of or the teacher of, you won't be able to see this. So, but for a class that you're the teacher of, you should be able to go to workload planning if you have that option there. And all of your students are going to be listed. And then on each day across the top here, you're going to see how many assignments they have due on any given day. So the workload planning is really what's the workload of your students and how can you plan around that information to support your students in the best way possible. So from here, I can look at, I have one student and Janice is not enrolled in any of the classes. So there's nothing really showing up here, but populated in this Monday, you might see a 2, and then Tuesday, maybe there's 1 thing due. Wednesday, she has nothing due. So across, it's just going to populate from all the classes that Janice is enrolled in, how many things are due on any given day. And so all of your students would be listed under this student breakdown. And then at the top, you also have total students above the minimum. So let's say I had a really big assignment or project that I was going to have due on, and I was kind of thinking maybe I wanted it sometime towards the end of October. So I'm going to go over and say between October 19th and October 25th is kind of when I'm thinking I want something to be due. And I could say I really want it to be due on a day that students, I want the minimum to be 3 or more items. So that's going to kind of be my indicator that maybe that's too many things for students to just kind of be dealing with at the same time. So this area up at the top here is now going to tell me how many students are above that 3 or more items due on any given day. So what you have down below is student by student, but it's taking all of that data for you and giving you a quick snapshot of on October 22nd, do you have 1 student that has 3 or more things due, or do you have 17 students that have 3 or more things due? So if the higher that number is, the more likely I am to avoid that date to have something especially big due. So maybe I try to find, okay, what's the lowest number on here and pick that day as the due date. So an interesting tool feature, that workload planning. Another thing that we didn't explore too much previously was just the resources tab. So I'm going to go into resources. And we talked about how you can get your personal resources. It's given me a little note here. We won't read that for too long. Let's see, okay. But you can save your resources. If I pop back real quick into my sandbox, just as a quick reminder, if I'm in materials, maybe at the end of each quarter or the end of each semester, at some point, I'm going to go in and save each of my units. So I just want to make sure I have these saved. So if I go to Unit 1 and say Save to Resources, and then I'm just going to click Save it in my home collection. I haven't really well, I have some other unit folders in there, but maybe I'm just going to keep it at the highest level, so I'm not going to put it in a folder, and I'm going to say Save a Copy. That unit, which I may have already even saved, but that unit's going to be saved in my personal home resources. So there it is right here. So it even says saved by me on October 6th. So a nice way to just kind of keep all of you're working really hard, you're developing all kinds of resources. So just making sure that you have those available for future use by saving them into your personal resources. From here, I can also look at public resources. and a group resources and apps. So the apps are really where this is really dependent on your district and how they're structuring the use of different apps. So again, we probably won't, it'd be great to hear from you on what apps you're finding are integrating really well within Schoology. But this is so dependent on kind of district and personal choice that it's hard to get into too much specifics. But if we look at the public resources, just want to highlight again that here you can search. So if you're looking for something really specific, why not check and see if someone else has already made something that you can use? A great place to share resources, learn from one another, and all of these resources, people have decided that they're gonna just have them available for anyone. So you don't have to pay for them. You can take them and change them. So you're essentially making a copy and saving it for yourself. So a great way to get in and see what other people have made. You can also organize by subject, by resource type. So are you looking for a game or a puzzle? Are you looking for a whole lesson plan? Kind of what specific type of resource are you looking for? You can also look by grade band. So do I want something for the littles? Do I want something for the older kids? You can also do file format and then also be looking for highest rated. So a great way to just look for different resources. So if I'm just gonna pull this first one. It also tells me what kind of ratings they have and how many downloads. So just kind of an interesting, I already added this one, so let's maybe go down to the next one. So my Schoology code of contact, let's say that this was something I really wanted to use. So I'm gonna go over and click this button at the far right side that has a little plus. And I can add it directly to a course, or I can organize into my folders. So I have these personal folders where I can download. But let's say I'm just going to add to course, and I want to add it to all of my courses that I have in Schoology. So maybe I'll click them all. You could just click one, and you can even organize it into a folder. So if you want it somewhere in particular, but let's just say for now, let's just add so we can go see what this looks like. Now it's told me it's added. So now I'm going to go back to courses, and I know I added it to both classes. So I'm just going to pick one of those. I'm going to go into materials, and that Schoology code of conduct is at the very bottom. So if I want to move this, I can drag things on Schoology. So let's say I really want that code of conduct at the very beginning because I want students to engage in that at the very start of a course. But now if I click on that, I have the ability to change this document. So I can go in and make edits. It looks like they have kind of two documents that are linked here. So now I have the ability to go in and modify this to meet my needs and my students' needs. So between that workload planning and the resources tools, a lot of interesting things available there. One more that I'll just highlight is the use of, especially for students, the use of your really utilizing the calendar in Schoology. So the calendar app, there's a couple ways to get to calendar, but as just a quick reminder, you'll see yours and your students will have a lot more as you're using this throughout the year. But your calendars defaults to all calendars, but I can also do that drop down and I can just sort by a class. So for students who are maybe really struggling with time management and figuring out what's due when, really helping them use this calendar to figure out what's due, what do I really need to focus on, is a great way to keep students focused and help you thinking about effective instruction. So I could highlight just, my second period class or whatever this might be. So for students, and now it's telling me I have 1 of 6 calendars open. So so those are like the 3 tools that I just wanted to highlight. Again, there's so many more tools that you have maybe found already or you've heard about from a friend. And so we'd love to hear about those tools in the discussion.